whispered that she was a nobody, a penniless orphan lucky enough to marry the rising corporate star Julian Thorne. For 3 years, Linda swallowed every insult, every late night, and every lipstick stain on his collar. But the world didn't know that her silence wasn't weakness. It was a contract. Julian thought he was parading his mistress in front of a helpless wife. He didn't realize he was waking a sleeping dragon. He didn't know that the woman washing his dishes had a guardian who could buy his entire company with pocket change. And when that guardian finally landed, the parade was over. The chandelier light inside Le Bernardin, one of New York City's most exclusive seafood restaurants, was soft, forgiving, and golden. It was the kind of light designed to make diamonds sparkle and secrets disappear. But tonight it did nothing to hide the humiliation etched onto Linda Thorne's face. It was their 3rd wedding anniversary. Across the table, her husband Julian Thorne swirled a glass of 1982 Chateau Margaux. He wasn't looking at Linda. He was looking at the woman sitting directly next to him on their anniversary. "You have to try the truffle pasta, Chloe," Julian said, his voice dripping with an affection he hadn't shown Linda in 2 years. He speared a piece of food and held it to the woman's lips. "It's divine, almost as exquisite as that dress." Chloe Sinclair giggled, the sound sharp and brittle like breaking glass. She was beautiful in a predatory way, clad in a red Versace evening gown that cost more than the car Linda drove. She leaned forward, brushing her shoulder against Julian's. "Oh, Julian, behave. Your wife is watching." Chloe didn't whisper. She looked directly at Linda, her eyes gleaming with triumph. Linda sat with her hands folded in her lap, her knuckles white. She wore a simple navy blue dress she had bought off the rack at Macy's 3 years ago. Beside Chloe's designer armor, Linda looked like the help. "Linda doesn't mind," Julian said dismissively, finally glancing at his wife. His eyes were cold, devoid of warmth. "She knows her place. She knows she's lucky to even be sitting at a table like this. Isn't that right, Elle?" Linda took a slow breath. The air smelled of expensive perfume and betrayal. "It is our anniversary, Julian," she said softly. I thought it would just be us." Julian slammed his wine glass down. The sound silenced the nearby tables for a split second. "Stop being so ungrateful," he hissed. "Chloe is my vice president of marketing. We have business to discuss. You should be thanking me. Most men in my position would have left a boring, penniless orphan like you years ago. I provide you with a house in Greenwich, a car, and food. The least you can do is not embarrass me with your jealousy." "I'm not jealous," Linda said, her voice steady though her heart hammered. "I just wanted one night. And I want a wife who brings something to the table besides a depressed attitude," Julian shot back. He turned back to Chloe, his demeanor instantly softening. "Ignore her, darling. Order the lobster." Linda looked down at her empty plate. The waiter, a young man who looked pained by the scene, poured her water with a sympathetic grimace. For 3 years, this had been her life. When she met Julian, he had been a charming, ambitious junior executive. Linda had been quiet, seemingly alone in the world, working as a freelance librarian. He had wooed her, or so she thought. In reality, he had needed a safe wife, someone with no family to interfere, no connections to leverage, and no ego to challenge him while he climbed the corporate ladder at Sterling & Co., the massive conglomerate he worked for. But as Julian's success grew, so did his cruelty. He flaunted his affairs. He cut off her access to their joint accounts, giving her a humiliating allowance of $200 a week for groceries. "Oh, look," Chloe said loudly, pointing to Linda's wrist. "Is that a plastic watch?" Julian laughed. "She refuses to wear the Apple Watch I bought her. Claims she likes the sentiment of that old trash." Linda covered the watch with her other hand. It was an old battered leather strap with a faded face. It wasn't plastic. It was a rare vintage Patek Philippe Ref 1518 passed down through a lineage Julian knew nothing about. To him it looked like junk. To collectors, it was worth millions. "It was a gift," Linda murmured, "from a friend." You don't have friends, Linda, Julian sneered. You only have me. He signaled for the check. Come on, Chloe. Let's go to the Pierre Hotel for drinks. The atmosphere here is too depressing. What about me? Linda asked, looking up. Julian stood adjusting his Brioni suit jacket. Take an Uber home. I won't be back tonight. I have a late strategy meeting. Chloe smirked, sliding her arm through Julian's. Don't wait up, sweetie. They walked out, leaving Linda alone at the table for three. The bill lay unpaid on the table. Julian had forgotten it in his haste to leave with his mistress. The waiter approached cautiously. Ma'am, the gentleman left the bill. Linda looked at the check. It was for $200. She opened her purse. She didn't have Julian's credit card. He had taken it for safekeeping last week. She had $20 in cash, but she also had a black titanium card tucked in a hidden lining of her wallet. A card with no numbers, just a gold crest of a lion holding a key. She hesitated. Not yet, she told herself. Not yet. She pulled out her phone. I'll pay via Apple Pay, she said to the waiter, linking it to a dormant account she had sworn never to touch. As the transaction cleared, a notification pinged on a server thousands of miles away in Zurich. She walked out into the cold New York rain. Julian's Porsche was long gone. Linda didn't call an Uber. She walked 3 blocks to a quiet park bench, sat down, and looked at the Patek Philippe on her wrist. 3 years, she whispered to the rain. I promised I'd try to live a normal life for 3 years. I promised I'd see if a man could love me, not the name. She twisted the watch face. Time's up. 2 days later, the situation shifted from neglect to invasion. Linda was in the kitchen of their Greenwich, Connecticut home, a sprawling modern estate that felt more like a museum than a home. She was kneading dough. Cooking was her therapy. The front door slammed open. Linda, get your things out of the master suite. Julian's voice boomed through the hallway. Linda wiped the flour from her hands and walked into the foyer. She froze. Julian wasn't alone. Chloe was there carrying a Louis Vuitton speedy bag, looking around the foyer with a critical eye. Behind them were 2 movers carrying boxes. What is going on? Linda asked. Chloe is moving in for a few weeks, Julian said casually, as if he were discussing the weather. Her apartment in Manhattan is being renovated. The fumes are bad for her migraines. She needs fresh air. She's moving in. Linda felt the room spin. Julian, this is our home. You cannot bring your mistress to live here. Chloe stepped forward, her heels clicking sharply on the marble. Mistress is such an ugly word, Ellie. Think of me as a house guest. Besides, Julian says you barely use the master bath anyway. You prefer the shower in the guest hall, don't you? I use the guest shower because the master drain has been broken for 6 months, and Julian refused to call a plumber. Linda said, her voice trembling with rage. Well, I'm having it fixed today, Julian said. Chloe needs comfort, and since she needs the master suite, you'll be moving into the servants' quarters downstairs. Linda stared at him. The servants' quarters were a small windowless room next to the laundry area. It was damp and cold. You want me to sleep in the basement? Linda stated flatly. It's temporary. Julian waved his hand. Don't be dramatic. Unless you want a divorce, because if we divorce, you get nothing. You sign that prenup. You leave with the clothes on your back. No alimony, no assets. You'll be back on the street. He wielded the prenup like a weapon. He didn't know the prenup was invalid. The lawyer who drafted it for him worked for a firm secretly owned by the Vance estate. Linda had let him sign it to see if he would ever treat her fairly without financial incentive. He had failed the test. I won't move to the basement, Linda said. Julian stepped into her personal space, towering over her. Then get out. I'm tired of looking at your miserable face. Chloe is the future of my company. She brings in clients. She shines at galas. You're an anchor dragging me